I'm going to show you a satellite picture first. And as we saw yesterday, or if you were watching the Weather Channel yesterday, most of the clouds were in the northern half of the country, and that's true again today. High pressure has come into the southeast, and well, if you live in Charlotte or Atlanta, you notice the winds have died down quite a bit. It was a crispy morning, certainly. Off the Great Lakes still, the lake effect. You see it's clear up there on the north side of Lake Ontario, and then when the cold winds come over the lake, picks up the clouds. Then the lake effect may end around Lake Erie, but on the heels of all of that is a surge of warmer air overriding the cooler air. So you have the clouds and the snow here in Wisconsin and Minnesota. And then the cold front did come through the northwest, and even though it was snowing in the Cascades or raining yesterday, it's snowing right now. Then in the southwest, more pleasant weather. If you live in Phoenix or Los Angeles, looks like a pretty good day. But if you live in the northeast, we still have to deal with lake effect snow, at least for a little while longer. And you see the bands of snow. Actually, the cold air comes over Lake Huron or the Georgian Bay, and then comes over Lake Ontario. A little band there west of Rochester near Brockport, but I don't think that's producing much in the way of snow. Then again around Sodas Point through Syracuse, where it's snowing very heavily at the current time, about an inch an hour. And then the band will continue down around Cooperstown and Oneonta, but kind of loses its punch once it gets down there. So look out, say where I-90 and 81 come together near the Cuse, because it's going to be some rough traveling. Eventually these snow bands will lift to the north. Down here we have some snow too on I-90, Chautauqua County into Erie County of Pennsylvania. And again, a little bit of that will move to the north later this afternoon. I don't think there's much precipitation in the drier air as we move toward the coast. To the west, boy, my goodness, on the heels of the lake effect is snow here. Now, this is not lake effect. This is actually warm air coming over the colder air and just producing what we call synoptic snow, or snow from a front or an area of low pressure. And that's what we see here. Green Bay, the snow's been picking up to Rhinelander and Marquette, and that'll be moving into Michigan this afternoon. Behind it, some very, very gusty winds. Wisconsin, Illinois, all the way down to Missouri, Iowa, Kansas, 40, 50 mile an hour gusts at times. Northwest, showery precipitation, a little cooler for you in Seattle and Portland as compared to yesterday. We'll go to our maps and we'll see what's going to happen over the next few days. Certainly some big changes in the offing. We'll show you that area of low pressure in the Midwest and a lot of wind behind that low as the high moves offshore. And that'll continue to move on to the northeast as time goes on. You can see the cold air coming into the mountains, more snow for Utah, the Wasatch Front also into Colorado. And then you talk about wind, these lines of equal pressure very close together. Winds will howl out of the south and southwest, getting into Cleveland. Now, it will be milder tomorrow. You don't have to worry about cold temperatures, but the winds are going to blow as that high on the East Coast retreats. Now, the Gulf moisture gets into the act. So from Baton Rouge to Nashville up through Cincinnati, the rain is going to fall. Then it gets a lot colder once more in the Dakotas and Minnesota as we move through time. Saturday, milder. See, the southwest winds will be racing up the eastern seaboard. So 60s in Boston and New York. That's the way November is, hot and cold. Warm fronts and cold fronts. The colder air moves in on your Sunday. Then into the new week, the cold air stays mostly over the Great Lakes and Northeast. It doesn't really penetrate too much to the south. The dip in the jet stream, the trough a little bit flatter, so places like Atlanta and Birmingham, well, you'll be in the 50s. That's still below normal for this time of year. Now, as that front comes into the southeast, there could be some severe weather again. Look out from Jacksonville up through Atlanta to the D.C. area, rain. A lot of football games will be affected there. And as we move into Sunday, the system kind of moves offshore. Still some snow showers. The atmosphere relaxes just a little bit as we move into the new week. And then the next system on Tuesday, a little bit weaker, but a dusting of white snow again for the Northeast. Boy, it looks like we're in early this year as far as the winter season, and Christmas and all of the holiday will feel a little bit earlier this year as compared to next. And we'll look at the extended forecast.
Accurate, convenient, and dependable. Only on the Weather Channel.
western part of the country that will
day in Portland, Oregon. The rain was kind of continuous. The winds gusting to 30 miles an hour during the day on Wednesday. By the way, officially about an inch of rain fell in Portland yesterday. Don't put your rain gear away yet because more showers are in the forecast, although the rain is not expected to be as heavy and the winds will not be as strong as they were yesterday. Other weather features in Oregon on Wednesday include some record warmth east of the Cascades due in part to downslope and very mild westerly winds. How about Pendleton, 70 degrees yesterday. That was a record high. And after 6 inches of snow on Wednesday found record warmth in Yakima, Washington, just north of the border there, a high of 70 degrees. Well, things have changed in the west today, or are in the process of changing, because a sharp cold front has passed on by. The winds have shifted to the northwest, and colder air is moving in. Now, the heavier rains have ended, that's for sure, but again, around Portland with that westerly flow, the atmosphere is still a bit unstable. You can expect some showers. Same deal up towards Bellingham and Seattle, Washington. Now, in the Cascades, the lowering snow levels have froze up what's left of the snowpack. That means that's good news for the rivers, because the level of the water will begin to fall somewhat as the snow melt abates in the higher elevations. But if you have travel plans over the Cascades today, look out for some snowy and slushy highways from Snoqualmie Pass southward to Santiam Pass in Oregon. Again, still some leftover light precipitation, mainly west of the Cascades, Washington and Oregon. Well, here comes that sharp front. It's already sending some moisture out ahead of it into the high country of Colorado, and because of orographic lift, snow has developed on and west of the Continental Divide in Colorado, from about the Eisenhower Tunnel northward to Rocky Mountain National Park. We have reports of poor visibility and snow in the higher terrain west of Denver. Around Salt Lake, still raining in the valley, but heavy snows have developed up in the Wasatch around Alta and Snowbird, and up to a foot of snow could fall by this evening. Meanwhile, precipitation is sliding southward out of the Snake River Valley in Idaho into northern Utah and northeastern Nevada. Heaviest snows by 7 p.m. Again, the Wasatch and Uinta Mountains in Utah, the Tetons in western Wyoming, the high country of Colorado, maybe as much as a half a foot by this evening. Again, west of Denver and west of the Continental Divide. Denver, you'll get probably some snow late tonight and early on Friday. 40s in the northwest today, but 80s around Phoenix. Back to that cool stuff. Showery weather. Portland, 50. Las Vegas, partly cloudy and 74. And Denver, windy and 62. Tom?
Well, meanwhile, in the east, they're singing "Let It Snow, Let It Snow, Let It Snow" in parts at least of western New York State. The lake effect snow machine was in full effect. We'll take you to Chautauqua County, which is in southwestern New York, well south of Buffalo. 3 to 5 inches of snow fell in the area late in the afternoon, and another 3 to 5 inches fell overnight as a lake effect snow warning was in effect. And it looks like the snow is still falling. Actually, we'll look at that in a minute. Caused some problems getting around, slippery, and of course some slippery traveling conditions. Say on Interstate 90 from Fredonia down to the Pennsylvania state line, some slippery roads this morning, and that snow band should shift a little bit to the north as the winds flatten out to the west off of the lake. So what is this lake effect snow that we talk about all the time? Well, when the air gets cold enough, comes down out of Canada, and cold, dry air passes over the warmer, and they are warm for this time of year, open waters of the Great Lakes. And what happens is the lower levels of the atmosphere get a little heat and moisture. Cold air doesn't like to hold moisture very well, so the clouds form readily, and the precipitation forms, and snow comes down off the lakes. Of course, when you have a little elevated area, that enhances the amount of snow that falls. When the winds are in the same direction at the surface up to 5,000 feet, you don't have much wind shear, so the snow tends to form in bands off the lakes, and that's what we've been seeing over the past couple of days. And we talked about the, I think Rick mentioned it a minute ago, orographic lifting. Well, you know, you take moisture and you lift it, and of course you cool it, and it just wrings out even more. So areas, say, like the Tug Hill Plateau, east of Lake Ontario, receive quite a bit more in the way of snow. Let's go to the radars, and we'll show you what's happening here There's a band of snow off Lake Ontario that's hitting Syracuse fairly hard, and off of Lake Erie as well. Those bands will shift a little bit to the north this afternoon, and even into western Pennsylvania we see a little bit of snow, also in Syracuse down toward the Cooperstown, Oneonta area, but that should taper off, and the Lake Erie lake effect should taper off a little bit too. On the heels of all of that, we continue to see a warm front with lots of wind in the Midwest, and behind that warm front, ahead of the front, about 1 to 3 inches of snow could fall in this area from northern Minnesota all the way down through Wisconsin. Rick.
Tom, as we go into the forecast, we see the wintry mix lifting off towards the upper Great Lakes later on this afternoon, as it does, again, fairly light but substantial snows, upper peninsula of Michigan and northern sections of Minnesota. Through the nation's midsection, there's kind of a squeeze play going on between the developing low and the big high along the eastern seaboard. That two big weather systems squeezing together causes a tight pressure.
These hard water deposits.
And be active this time of year. Let's go out on the Atlantic because there's something that's interesting right now as we look at that tropical disturbance out there. And of course, the tropics can be active this time of year. We've had a number of storms during the month of November. This is not a tropical storm, but it is an area of disturbed weather. There's an area of high pressure in the upper echelons of the atmosphere. So it's not unfavorable to develop a little bit. This is about 800 miles to the east of the islands, and it continues to move to the west. Now this time of year, the window of opportunity for development is usually pretty small. You see a front out here and a little bit of shearing type winds, so it'll be interesting to see how long this can maintain itself and if it would develop, but that's just something we're just going to have to keep our eye on over the next 24 hours. We always worry a little bit when we see this phenomena, especially in the Caribbean or the Atlantic. Back home, we have lake effect snow. There's a band coming off Lake Ontario to Syracuse and south of the Mohawk Valley. Winds are this way, but I think they're going to flatten out a little bit this afternoon and bring the band a little bit north. That's what's going on here, northern Chautauqua County, maybe into southern Erie County of New York State. Some lake effect snow, not a whole lot of it, but kind of a nuisance situation. Then to the west, this is not lake effect. This is warm air overriding colder air, and we have snow in the UP of Michigan, Marquette to Rhinelander, down toward the Green Bay area. We could get a smidgen of snow in Chicago, and then the warm winds will come in, and I mean these winds are going to howl. 40, 50 mile an hour gusts out of the southwest, but at least it'll warm up, so you'll have to trade the warmer temperatures for the intense winds, at least in the western Great Lakes and upper Mississippi Valley. Let's look at our map and we'll see what's happening here with high pressure in the east. Great day, beautiful sunshine, DC down to Atlanta, and a lot less wind compared to yesterday. Here's our low in the Midwest. There's the warm front that's going to come through, and we have low pressure here, high pressure here. Notice how quickly the pressure changes. That's why these isobars, or lines of equal pressure, are close together. When that happens, we have lots of wind, and that's what's going to happen into the plains and eventually through the upper Midwest. Our cold front came through the Northwest. Snow levels are coming down in Washington and Oregon. We had quite a bit of snow in some parts of the country, especially in the Great Lakes and the east. Lake effect snow, the cold air came over the open waters of the lake, and of course, if you have any elevation on the other side of the lake, the air rises and forms even more in the way of snow. We do have a little bit of freezing rain as well in the Dakotas, basically because of the intense warm air aloft, but the cold air likes to stay down at the surface, and that's what we have. Quick burst of snow for the Arrowhead of Minnesota, upper Wisconsin, could be 1 to 3 inches before all is said and done there, so keep that in mind. The snow tapering off this afternoon off Lake Erie. Meanwhile, to the west, more snow, Montana, Wyoming, into Utah and Colorado as that front comes on through, ushering in the colder air. And you know that up in Stampede Pass, you had so much snow on the ground, over 40 inches. Then you had 3 inches of rain, or 3.5 inches of rain. Then the cold front came through, and now it's snowing again in the passes. Colder day, you know that if you live in Portland. Well, it was up around 60 yesterday for you, and today barely reaching the 50-degree mark as that front has come through. And of course, as the flow comes off the water, rises up the west side of the mountains, you get the snow. What's interesting about Washington State is you get all the snow on this side of the mountains, then the downslope winds make for almost a desert-like condition east of the Cascades. But that's what we're going to see today. But with the colder air coming in, we won't have as much runoff or melting of the snow here, so the rivers won't swell quite as rapidly as they have been the last day or so. Heavier snow eventually in Utah. Good news for you skiers. Now, I think last year with the El Nino effect, the moisture was coming into California. This year it's a little more on the normal side, starting out in Washington and Oregon and then kind of spilling into Colorado. That's what we see this November. So still dry for the California mountains. There's our front, and we're going to have a lot of wind. Look at the high off the coast and the approaching low, but the winds will be more of a southerly direction, so much warmer for a couple of days. And of course, with the warm air getting in place here, cold front coming in, we would look for severe weather late Friday into Saturday, moving across the southeast once again. That's something to look for as we move into Saturday. Stay tuned to the Weather Channel. We'll highlight some travel problems with the snow next.
This filter was taken from a furnace humidifier. It's completely
Action News, Delaware Valley's leading news program, with Dave Franco, Rick Williams, and Monica Malpass.
Good afternoon. In the news, the Navy is once again the target of a sexual harassment probe.
1 week after a shocking crime, police returned to the scene of Kimberly Ernest's murder looking for more clues. And officers dressed up like journalists bring a dramatic end to an airline hijacking.
But the big story on Action News this noon is a big traffic problem involving the Tacony-Palmyra Bridge. The bridge is stuck in the open position just hours before it is scheduled to be shut down for repairs. Now, traffic came to a standstill after the bridge went up and wouldn't come down just before 11 o'clock this morning. Ironically, the problem developed as crews prepared to close the bridge at 8 o'clock tonight. Let's go live to the Pennsylvania side of the Tacony-Palmyra Bridge. That's where reporter Denise James is with the very latest. Denise.
Well, the bridge is still in the stuck position, and traffic is being diverted before it gets to the bridge. There doesn't seem to be any big traffic jam at this point. Apparently, motorists finding alternative ways to go across if they have to go across. But as you mentioned, the bridge was scheduled to close tonight at 8 o'clock tonight for some repairs. A section of the girder was to be replaced over the next few days. The girder is used to help open and close the bridge. Now, they wanted to do this girder replacement before winter got started and before redecking project that's coming up came up. Now, that's supposed to be in spring of '96. It's supposed to take about 2 years to do. It will not close for the redecking project. But again, they were scheduled to close starting tonight through this Tuesday to replace part of the girder. That, of course, is happening early. Not much traffic here. The traffic you may see behind me is the few cars that are getting this close and then being diverted elsewhere. Again, motorists finding alternative bridges when they do need to go across, and the Bridge Commission says they acknowledge that this is an inconvenience, but say it's essential for safe operation of the bridge. I'm Denise James, live on the Action Cam at the Tacony Palmyra.
All right, thanks, Denise. Police are on the chilliest morning so far this season. Winter, of course, is still weeks away, but some folks already look like they were ready for a blizzard. No blizzard in the forecast yet, but we did see a few flurries in the suburbs.
I saw a few.
Yeah.
Much more still to come. A docking tunnel for use in future rendezvous. The construction will also serve as a practice run for the building of an international station. NASA has a 7-minute window to get the shuttle off the ground Saturday morning. Forecasters say there's a 70% chance of good weather.
Old man winter's dropping by for a little preview.
A little early. It's still fall, but it certainly felt like winter out there this morning with a biting wind. It is a chilly day in the Delaware Valley. We have had a fair amount of sunshine, some clouds mixing in from time to time. Take a look at the satellite picture and you will see this mixture of clear skies and occasional cloudiness. And over the past 12 hours, you see how this just sort of comes and goes, and it's mostly coming out of the Great Lakes. The wind coming down out of Canada, picking up the water off the Great Lakes, dumping some snow up in that area, but for us it just survives mostly in the form of clouds. We say mostly. We'll show you the exception in a moment here. There's action radar, and you can see the light snow falling up around Lake Michigan, and then some flurries into Pennsylvania and into parts of New York as well. And in fact, we did see some flurries here in the Delaware Valley overnight. The action cam was out early this morning in Feasterville, and this was the scene. Not just flurries, really, but a dusting of snow on the cars in the car lot here. And had to brush those off this morning to get the day started. Some light snow in the Delaware Valley overnight. We're going to be windy and cold for the afternoon, but then we're going to start a warm-up over the next couple of days. Temperatures will get milder. By Saturday, we are downright warm, but some wet weather comes in then as well. Check the call from AccuWeather, and it is a risk of brisk out there today. It's freezing right now in the Poconos, 32, Allentown 38, or 34, Trenton 38, 39, Wilmington. We started at 29 degrees this morning. We'll get to about 42 degrees for a high temperature this afternoon, but with the wind, it's going to feel more like the teens and the 20s. Check out this scene on the action cam. There you go, the Swan Fountain, pretty picture. And let's check out the numbers as well. 39 degrees right now officially. The relative humidity, 50%. Barometer steady, 30.22 inches. We have a northwest wind at 18 miles an hour, and that gives us a wind chill of 19 degrees. Indeed, it is wintry out there. 38 in the northeast, 39 outside the station in the airport, 42 Center City, 41 in Camden. The exclusive AccuWeather 5-day forecast going to be blustery and cold this afternoon with sunshine and clouds mixing. You may see a flurry. The best chance of that is the further north you go. 42 degrees the high, clear skies, maybe a couple of clouds around the night. It'll be cold, 25 in the suburbs, 31 in Center City. Tomorrow we see the milder air come back, 58 degrees, a mixture once again of sunshine and clouds. By Saturday, as we said, it'll be warmer, windy and warm, 65 degrees, clouds to start, and by later in the day on Saturday and Saturday night, there you see it, some wet weather. Could linger into early Sunday, and then we'll start to dry out again. Windy and cooler later on Sunday. Maybe some sun by the end of the day. 54 degrees. Nice weather for the football game Sunday night, and then chilly on Monday. Partly sunny skies. High temperature Monday, 48 degrees.
All right, thank you, David. Finally, Veterans Day is this Saturday, and at Penn's Landing this morning, veterans of several wars.
Well, it turned out to be a preview of a bridge closing scheduled for later tonight. Repairs were made and the bridge reopened around 1:30 this afternoon, just 6.5 hours before it closes again at 8 tonight as scheduled for a new girder to be installed. The bridge should be back in business permanently early next Tuesday morning.
When this
The American family.
Dad Gladys waiting, we gotta go.
And everything they put us through.
When you go home, do you look around and wonder, who are these people? Where did I even come from?
From director Jodie Foster.
Into the house, everyone, before we're in the evening news.
Home for the holidays. Rated PG-13. Now playing at select theaters.
Very much, Mr. Mark. It was another chilly day today, a very cold start. In some areas did pick up some snow. That's right, some flurry activity. This was the scene in Feasterville, Pennsylvania early this morning. The honkers are happy out here tonight. You see a coating of snow on these used beauties. That's up in Bucks County. Take a look at Sky 6 right now, a live picture. The sun officially set at 4:51, but we still have that red-orange hue, that glow. Looks very pretty indeed. Thursday.